Hello everyone, welcome to the NASCOM in Conversation. Today's session is focusing on the value of AI and risk of AI. And with me today is Anantha Sekar, AI, Head of AI CEO at TCS. Welcome to this conversation, Mr. Anantha Sekar.
Hi, Jibu. Glad to be here.
Yes, let me introduce you to the audience for a second. So, Mr. Anantha Sekar here has over 25 years of experience at TCS, working in various international roles across sales, delivery, alliances, consulting, and organizational building. He's credited as one of the team of leaders who established TCS consulting capability. And prior to his current role, he has worked across other strategic portfolios within TCS, including innovation, integrated offerings, business technology transformation, and enterprise architecture. It's a one hell of a profile you have, Mr. Radha Shekhar. And I'm sure that you had a wonderful, amazing journey over this 25 years at TCS.
Absolutely. Thanks for the nice introduction, Jibu. It has been a tremendous journey with TCS from 1990 onwards. So it is, as a company has grown, a fast-growing company creates its own opportunities to do different things over different times. So I'm glad to be sharing some of that experience and knowledge with you all today.
So, Anantha, and I know you mentioned you career started from 90s, and one constant is you work closely with enterprise clients. You work in the space of others. So, I want to ask you, throughout this experience you had throughout the years, how do you see the perspective of enterprise change with regard to AI, right? Or and how it is different, all these years, and now AI being a more buzzword as well as the technology. So, what do you think, what is the enterprise's outlook on AI right now, and what are the challenges today that comes in when it comes to bringing AI integration with enterprises?
See, the earlier days in a lot of the enterprise focus was on how to adapt to different technologies. The disruptors of late or disruptive technology we define as something, a technology that can change industry value chains or business value chains. AI is disruptive by nature. What that means is that it's a paradigm shift that is required to adapt to AI. It's not simple as saying it's a piece of technology, tell me what it can do and let's do it. That's not how it goes. So the challenges are typical in adapting any paradigm shift, which is that first of all, it's an early market. So understanding what is the value that AI can deliver, enterprises are not clear. There is a scarcity of talent, typical of early market. There is emerging view on risk, regulation, best practices, and when they go out into procurement, if they look for traditional procurement processes in terms of like for like capabilities, they'll run into challenges obviously later. Okay, it needs an innovation mindset, an ability to adapt, and so on. The second big problem I would call out is that it's transformational. In TCS, we talk about it as getting to a resilient, adaptive, and purpose-driven enterprise in terms of the kind of transformations our customers are undertaking. And that kind of transformation needs what we call a mindset change. It changes the ways of working, it challenges the operating model, it raises questions on strategy and differentiation and so on. So it's fundamental transformation in that sense. So that the scale of impact on the enterprise is quite high, which makes it challenging for executives to understand what is the real opportunity and how to shape it. The third and final one I talk about is what I call the velocity and variety, which is words usually used in the data and analytics word that applies here. AI is combinatorial. Okay, you can do things with AI, but you can do things with AI combined with IoT, combined with your data initiatives, combined with your customer experience initiatives, or with your product innovation initiatives. So there are different ways that you can use. So who in the enterprise should drive the AI strategy itself? Which business executive, which part of the business itself is something that will emerge? Because pretty much any of them can. And we do see that in different enterprises, there are different leaders who drive such an initiative. In some sense, from both from the buyer's point of view and the seller's point of view, that can be a challenge.
I think one point you mentioned that really resonate with me is like you point, there's a lack of coherent AI strategy when it comes to many organizations. And as someone who has been in this space for the last 5, 6 years, working, understanding closely with what's happening in many companies and all, there is, when you look at that AI, since we are speaking about value of AI as well as the value part, in many cases, you feel like companies use AI for delivering better customer experience, or improving productivity here, cost cutting, energy saving, and numerous things. But mostly, it feels like they are using it to just keep up with the competition or to have an AI element. But my question here is: do companies like truly get that the potential of AI, especially from a non-operational business strategy point of view? And by not taking that approach, but not having a coherent strategy, what are those big opportunities they will be missing out?
You make a very relevant and valid point. The temptation is to think incremental and about value, and see what I can do faster, better, cheaper, in terms of how the business today goes. But actually, the AI opportunity is to think about what we call the next business. Okay, so there's an abundance of data in AI. You take the point of view that voice, text, image, video, IoT data, everything is data, right? And you can completely reshape how you engage with your customers, how you engage with your employees through AI. Okay, AI is also a vehicle to get into real-time decision making, what I would call probabilistic decision making, and leading on to predictive decision making. Okay, and that's a potential that's of extreme value to business. There's a lot of value there, but to get hold of it, you have to have a clearer business strategy. That is a second big value creation opportunity. And the next horizon, as we talk about horizon 3 in TCS, is about ecosystems. It's not so much what the business alone can do, but how do we become user or customer centric, and simplify the journey from that point of view, and which are the business partnerships we need to work with. By definition, these are not companies in the same business, so they will have their own culture, their own business interests, and so on. So putting together the ecosystem strategy also will create a different level of value creation, for which it's not just about doing a new product, it's about reshaping the business strategy of the company itself. So there's a lot that can be done in terms of how AI can contribute to the top line of a company and growing a business, reshaping a business, making it, as I said, more resilient, adaptable, and purpose driven. Okay, but that journey is where the growth opportunities will come from. I agree that there is a lot of initial thinking, because the business cases are obvious, tends to be on the operational efficiency side of things as of today.
I think, yeah, as you mentioned, one thing that will add to this is the whole idea of building a culture of innovation within enterprises, and we generally speak about this AI culture or innovation culture. So, what exactly mean from your experience? What does it mean for a company to, for example, we mentioned the roadblocks and challenges. Now, let's assume an enterprise want to embrace and build an AI culture. So, what does mean, and how does it happen?
See, it starts from value. I mean, no transformation succeeds unless your mind is focused on the value to be gained from the transformation, right? If you keep thinking costs all the time, you will not be able to successfully transform, not just with AI, but any transformation. So the attitude to value is important. And as we touched on, the attitude in TCS, we call it exponential value. Okay. You have to be ambitious about what you want to achieve by the use of AI, not find another 5% of efficiency somewhere, right? But in terms of setting up a new line of business, getting into a new venture, launching new products, whatever. So that ambition has to be there in terms of the value you want to achieve. And if you're talking about customer acquisition, there is it's global. It's a global world, and hence you can actually achieve a lot. The second thing I would say in AI culture is, to me, the attitude to risk. In TCS, we talk about it as embracing risk. Okay. It is not possible to create a risk register with 7 different entries or whatever in terms of what are the risks to be managed and say how I manage, mitigate, do a 4 quadrant and take different strategies for each of the quadrants and so on. We talk about it as having to, digital is creating this necessity of embracing risk. So you have to be able to get comfortable with risk. There will be risk, there is value to be had, and there will be risk. Create the mechanisms to understand what those risks are, and how do you articulate it internally to executives so that the right business decisions can be taken. That's the second one. Third is my favorite actually. It's what I call the attitude to change itself. Right? It is new. Okay, it will, the technology will not work perfectly. If you look for feature-based buying, it will not tick off all the boxes that you are starting with. Right? If you start with any of the leading, say, NLP IVRs today of the world in contact center transformation side of the house, for example, and start doing a feature comparison with established natures, the disruptive technologies will not tick all the boxes that the established players would have built in their feature-rich integrated stacks, right? So you have to have a bit of can-do mentality. You have to be able and willing, and you have to see how it will work, how to make it work. Okay, so those are the three I would say that they are fundamental. That the how you approach value, how you think about risk, and how you think about change itself. Everybody wants to be innovative, but being innovative is not an easy challenge in terms of a mindset, even at a personal level, be it at an enterprise level.
Yes, I really appreciate the TCS approach to taking risk as well as being open to changes, right? There is a famous quote, right? The only thing that never changes change itself. So to speak about TCS, and your role as the head of AI COE, can you give a brief outline on what's the overall work you do these days?
See, basically, the state of the market is that the early stage customers are getting into what we would call AI pilots. So the conversation would tend to be around use cases, identifying the use cases, prioritizing the use cases, identifying the right technology platform for it. We have deep relationships with multiple technology platforms and providers. We also do a lot of work with open source, and we have our own IP. We instrument our own products and platforms with AI and so on. So identifying the right business case and essentially proving that AI can be of value, and also take them through the journey so that they understand what are the changes they need to think about, what are the opportunities they should look for, and so on. That's one side of work that happens. This is with customers who are new to adapting. The bulk of the time in my role goes into adoption of AI at scale in enterprises. When you have done the pilots, you're now convinced that AI can deliver value to you, and you have the skill sets and partnerships in place to deliver that value, okay, to realize that value. Then it comes to the question of now, how do you scale it up? What kind of governance should I have? What does responsibility mean? How much of explainable AI do I need? How do I prioritize AI projects? How do I achieve reuse, some efficiency, some repeatability? How do you test AI? Okay, assurance of AI is a topic by itself. So there are lots of ways of working that will change. So how does it impact the role of, say, the architecture governance function, accepting services or service management as a function? What is the role that different parts like procurement and organization play? And depending on where they are on their cloud journey, for example, or adoption of open source, there could be newer things that are being introduced. So talk them through. A lot of time goes with what we call chief security officers in terms of discussing what are the privacy regulations, how does this particular enterprise interpret that, on what can be and cannot be done. how do you meet other ongoing initiatives in the enterprise, be it in terms of observability and so on. So the whole, do you set up a center of excellence kind of model, or do you set up a shared services model, or are you better off business line led adoption, so kind of transformational initiative that has got legs in different business units working independently. So those kind of operating model kind of questions and technology choices, do we bet on one platform? The classic question, right? Integrated platform versus best of breed kind of questions will very often come up. Okay, because customers tend to offer multi-cloud, and they are all doing on-prem now, and they will also be invested into open source. So that whole strategy side of it, in terms of how do you prioritize, that's where a lot of the effort goes. There's a lot of regulation that people are very familiar with in terms of what is coming down the line. Different regulations, regulatory approaches in different jurisdictions. So depending on the market, the footprint of the enterprise, the global footprint of the enterprise, they may have to take different positions in different geographies. So how do you reconcile that? So those kind of questions is where a lot of the time goes actually. So I would say most of the effort is in terms of uh, getting AI going as a scale initiative within a large enterprise is typically where a lot of our work goes.
I have heard from many AI leaders that one of the biggest challenge is getting a pilot into a product, right? Even someone like Andrew and Nang has mentioned, right? It's easy to have a pilot or an academic research done, but scaling it up is a whole different thing, and and it's a very difficult job, and I'm sure you're enjoying every challenge that brings with it.
Absolutely. The product getting there is some data from analysts which pretty much indicates that anywhere between 50 to 80% of pilot projects don't make it into production. Okay. And if it doesn't go to production, our customer, as in TCS customer, is not getting any real value out of it, right? The business is not getting value, even if they have experimented with something. We talk about fail fast. So yes, there will be some which have to fail. We'll never strive to make it zero, not in the innovation space, right? But equally, the proof of value is when things go into production, and it makes a difference to the life of the customers and users, right? We talk about value as value to the business, value to the customer, and ultimately value to the society. Those are the kind of value framework we look at. And that is important. And there are challenges. There are quite often challenges, partly because people have not thought through sufficiently about how it will go into production, because simple things, change management kind of things and all, in terms of how it will work, it will take time. And ultimately, with certain kind of solutions, like you talk about a chatbot, or you talk about NLP, IVR, or ambitiously more on the AR, VR side of things, or video-based image processing and all that, to some extent, the users are also on a journey, the people. So we have to give them some time to get comfortable with it, and start using it the way. And see, the way I put it, we are new to talking to machines. We have certain mindset about how we talk to systems. The whole idea that we engage with systems the way we engage with humans, and the machines do the heavy lifting. They try to understand humans. What are we trying to say? What are we wanting it to do? The whole interpretation of it is the burden of communication is what is being transferred over to the systems, so to say, in the AI projects quite often, especially if they are on the conversational NLP AI side of things. And when that happens, like it's a journey even for the users, not just for the enterprise. So we have to see how it goes. So some will fail, but I'm glad to say that increasingly we are seeing more and more successes. So the percentages are going in the right direction.
So we mentioned about the value part. Now let's go to the other side, right? Like every coin, there is a two side, right? It's a
Yeah.
risk part. And one thing I know, you being someone with a lot of expertise, one thing I want to ask your personal opinion is, we've been seeing a lot of new initiatives and a lot of say elements emerging. For example, we have DALI, we have AIs that's winning the competitions, AIs applying for IP, or very recently with that Google Lambda's whole controversy. I think I was listening to a podcast where this gentleman Blake Lemony, who was speaking, he claims Lambda got sentient. So these kind of news and things are coming in. In one side, there is this general fear, right, of this AGI. Like every time when I speak to someone about AI, the first thing they say is Terminator or Matrix, right? So my question is, what is your predictions? How do we? What are your thoughts about the development, the future we are heading in? I mean, it's very difficult to predict future, but what are your thoughts on where we are going in terms of AI?
We are right now very early in the days of artificial general intelligence. What we have been discussing so far is sometimes called narrow intelligence. Basically, it's bound by a context. We are not trying to create anything human-like, so to say, right? In the journey of general intelligence, there has been a lot of progress. There have been a lot more shock and awe kind of news going on rather than real progress also. The way I would talk about it is I'd put it as three steps. Firstly, human-like communication capability, where things are happening in terms of NLP and in terms of translation, natural language processing, natural language generation, that side of things. And anytime we have interacted with, be it with a chatbot or with a smart speaker or any of these AI inside kind of gadgets, we know that we have quite some way to go to any of them behaving like a human. If your Alexa or whatever is not talking to you as exactly as a human, that gives you a direct measure as an end user of where we are on that journey, right? The second horizon is what I call the human-like collaboration, right? We have started seeing enterprise assistants and general purpose help desk and so on and so forth. We have all seen videos of nice robotics and all talk of metaverse and what can happen there in terms of participation and so on and so forth. But we are quite far from human-like collaboration today in terms of getting somewhere there. Okay. That needs a reasonable amount of capability. So it's slightly further down the journey in terms of an enterprise roadmap that we'll talk about. The third level is what I would call human-like understanding, which is the whole emotion AI, behavior AI side of things. We are now more comfortable with behavioral analytics per se, but the empathy side of things, unless we are able to give machines the capability to understand human emotions and at least react to them appropriately, we are quite far from artificial general intelligence, so to say. I live in London, for example. If somebody says it's brilliant, a text can could tell you that it is complimentary, whereas the tone in which said can make it quite sarcastic, right? So it could actually imply the opposite. So when you're programmatically, you're picking up the input from the text, from the tone of voice, from the visual processing, and so on and so forth. How do you bring them together? Making real-time decisions on these to decide actually what is the emotion, even in a single instance, is not easy today. Okay. So we need a lot more progress technologically before we can get anywhere near AGI. So I would say we are still quite far, decades away, in terms of getting to anything described in any of these scare scenarios. What I'm also seeing is across territories in different geographies, including NASCOM is taking a lead on this. The whole idea of responsible AI and explainable AI and so on and so forth. So people are aware of the dangers. So they are engaged with the topic of how to regulate it, what can be done, what cannot be done. We are dealing with a lot of such technologies now, right? Be it genetics, be it nanotechnology, be it sensor-based processing or anything. So the advantages are there, the risks are real. So long as the regulation goes side by side with the progress in the technology, I think we can confidently move further. even on artificial general intelligence. But in terms of expectation, I think it's going to take quite a lot of time to get there.
I think I really like your London example because I had a similar experience, right? I was studying in London. I was a student in London School of Economics. And so in here in India and all, you ask someone, are you okay? If there is somebody, it means that something is wrong with them, right? He might be sick, he might be sad, and you're asking, are you okay, right? And in London, my neighbor was a Pakistani gentleman, older man, and every time he meets, he asks me, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And it started to irritate me, right? It's as if something is wrong with me. So what is wrong with Pakistani people? So this kind of thing is a big challenge, right? Understanding that emotion behind, and you put it very well. You know how all these things has to come together. If we have to talk about an AGI or artificial, the consciousness or sentient machines, whatever that is. So
It's not just language, it's language and culture are always local. Okay. And we live in a multi-ethnic world. Even if you say Britain, you have Indians, Pakistanis, all kind of nationalities living here. And each of them have a certain nuance. They attach a certain meaning and a connotation to each word. Okay. Uh, Coming up with a software that can understand the nuance of multiple cultures and multiple languages all at the same time, we are quite some distance from that.
So similarly, there was a conversation a few days back with Jan LeCun, Joshua Bengio, and Jeffrey Hinton. The three pioneers of modern AI. So there, Jan LeCun was explaining, vocal communication is just one part of our communication, right? As well as the way we think. Also, we only use what 20 to 30% of our thinking happens through the words. So he was explaining why all these language models, whether it's GPT-3 or all these big models coming up, doesn't indicate innovation. I mean, they are part of innovation, but the progress as such as from an AGI standpoint of view, as well. So coming to our final question, I think we are short of time, unfortunately, and I would love to have continue this conversation with you because it's been very insightful. So let me ask you a question. We are talking about risk. What do you think are the major risks that are now associated, in your opinion, associated with an AI situation? I mean, yeah, you can go as far as the existential risk as people like Nick Bostrom puts in, but from your point of view, from an enterprise standpoint of view or a general standpoint of view, what do you identify as a major risk?
I think the explainability, that's how it is talked about within the discipline, right? But the tendency is there to say that the system made a decision, algorithm made a decision, and I don't know why it made the decision. It is decision. So you are not going to get your loan, you are not going to get your marriage, you are not going to get your mortgage, any of those business decisions that systems take. Okay. If people start blaming the system for it, it's politically incorrect to say it maybe, but I'll give an example. 2 years back during COVID time, there was a problem in terms of how grades could be awarded in UK, right? And people took a stand that algorithm did something. No, algorithm doesn't do anything. People took a decision on how to do moderation, and some poor IT developer codified it and put it into a system. But when people start blaming the algorithm for the decision and not explaining what the actual rationale for the decision was, then it's a problem. The biggest risk I see right now in AI is that your insurance claim or insurance application or whatever was rejected, right? And we are not able to explain to the user in terms that make sense to me, not in terms of weightages in neural networks, but in terms of business terms, what is the rationale that was used to make a decision, right? That business explainability of algorithms, I think, is critical. We cannot expect AI to be accepted by end users as a black box that magically takes decisions that nobody understands, right? If you get a diagnosis for a disease, be it cancer or anything else, right? Absolutely, the doctor will not, in any case, take that advice unless the doctor understands what are the things that were spotted, what are the things they will want to verify, because the accountability is very much with people. So don't treat the AI as something that is accountable by itself, right? There are people who have to be accountable, and they have to understand the business, the logic of the business decisions that are being taken in a way that they can communicate to people, the users. Okay. That I think is the biggest risk right now, because if we get that wrong, then people will not accept the use of AI in many things. Whereas the opportunity to transform societies, be it transportation, be it healthcare, be it creative industries, the opportunity is tremendous. But we shouldn't think that there are two classes of AI. There is the explainable AI and there is unexplainable AI. No, people will not accept things that are not explainable. So that I would say is the biggest risk I see, that people are just jumping ahead and doing things with AI without paying sufficient attention to the business explanation of it.
That's very informative, sir. I think I agree with you on that, explainable AI, because whether it's fairness or other elements are all related to it, right? How an AI makes a decision. It's a wonderful opportunity to have this conversation with you, sir, here. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it was very informative and insightful as well. Thank you so much for participating in this conversation.
Thank you. And it's a real pleasure talking to you, Jibu. We should catch up.
Thank you very much, sir. All the best.
Thank you.